Hello and welcome everyone to Master Blender 3D with Wild West Environment. And we're going to go ahead and start right off by getting ourselves a human reference. So we could start with the grayboxing. Let's go ahead and go on to the resource pack of the Blender file. On the upper left hand side, we're going to see a human reference like so. We can go ahead and select it and we can click a dot on our numpad to focus on it if we want to. But all we have to do is basically we can select it, click Ctrl C to copy it. And then within the new project that we created, we're going to go ahead and click Ctrl B and paste the reference in. And within the project, we should have it up on the side. It's going to keep the same location as it did for the reference, as it had for the reference. So we might want to move it back to the center piece. So we can click GY and GX to move it up to the front like so. All right, so now we have ourselves a nice little reference to work with. I might as well just move it a little bit downwards as well. If we click 1, we can see the reference of a human scale in comparison to the cube. And what you'll notice with the human reference is that it's almost two large squares in regards to the grid. This is an average human scale, so an average human is 1.8 meters, and one square of this is going to be 1 unit or 1 meter. So it's almost 2 meters basically. And that's going to help us out if we grab ourselves the pure reference for scene scale reference. We can see all of our human reference over here. We can see the front, the back, side, and the top in regards to how this environment looks like. And we can see that, for example, this entire building is going to be 3 humans tall or 6 meters in comparison. So we're going to start off with the grayboxing. And if you want, you can compare it to the Greybox Blender file as well. I do recommend you working using the images. The reason being is it helps with developing how basically to get from 2D onto 3D space type of a mindset. All right, so we're going to start off by getting the entire building set up. We're going to have a larger part in the back and a smaller piece at the front. And with the grayboxing, the way it works essentially need to be as simple as possible. And my personal rule for working with it is going to be just mainly to use primitive shapes with a couple of exceptions, which I'm going to cover in a bit. And let's go ahead and start off by deleting the cube. We're going to hit Shift and A and grab ourselves a new cube. There is a reason for that though. In this particular case, if we go to add cube section over here, we can move this Z value by 1, and that's going to move it at the very top. Then afterwards, with the 3D cursor being in the center, if you have the default project, it should still be there. If not, we can click Shift and S and select cursor to world origin. This will make the cursor to the bottom of the cube, basically. This outliner at the bottom. We can then right click and set origin to 3D cursor. This will make it so the origin of this object is going to be at the bottom. The reason we're doing this is basically now when we're scaling it, for example, I can click SZ, it's going to be scaling it from the bottom. And that just makes some workflow a little bit easier for us. It's not going to be scaling from the centerpiece, it's going to be scaling from that exact bottom part. Going back to the reference, the front piece is going to be, as I said, 6 meters. So let's go ahead and scale up the cube over here to 6 meters. You can do so by just going to clicking 1 to the front view, clicking SZ, and scaling it up to around that amount, like so. In regards to the width and length, if we go to the top-down view, we're going to see that this is the type of a section that we're going to have. It's going to be, I'd say 3 meters around. If we compare it to the grid over on the side, around 3 meters. Let's go ahead and fix that up. So right now it's 2 meters and I can scale it in Y-axis. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we can just do it something like that. And we can see that it's now 3 meters. And in regards to the scale for this, Let's see. So I'm just checking the upper grid over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be in 6 meters length. That's fair enough. Let's go ahead and fix that up. So we also know that this is going to be 2 meters. So we can upscale this Y in 3, the free amount. Oh, sorry, SX 3. So that's going to be 3 times the amount, which because it was 2, it's going to give us exactly 6 meters. So that's the base cube that we're going to have, and we can compare it to the human. And it's a nice little start that we're going to have like so. All right, so the next piece is going to be part in the side. For example, the water tower. We can go ahead and create ourselves a new cube. In this particular case, I don't really care about the origin point. I can click S, Z, and just scale it down. The reason being is that it's going to be a small platform, so I'm not really concerned about this setup too much. In regards to the position of this, let's have a look. It's going to be just slightly lower than the main structure. So let's go ahead and just have it like so. And I want to know, it's almost going to be the same size, but not quite. So I'm going to go ahead and upscale it around this amount. Maybe reposition it just a little bit. We don't need to worry about the accuracy in these kind of points. We just want to have a flow with creativity. We want to make sure everything is nicely fitting in regards to composition, and we can always tweak it and adjust it afterwards. That's why working with gray boxes is all about making sure that the base shapes are in order. So something like that is going to be quite well. Now, in regards to the support, we can probably grab this cube over here. I'm going to hit Shift D, GX, move it off to the side. Then I'm going to click Alt and S, which is going to reset the scale. It's a really nice tool to make use out of if you haven't applied the scale for transformation. We can then click S, and using Z, we could move it upwards, or alternatively, we can lock the Z values to kind of shrink only in X and Y axis. So using Shift Z, by tapping it, once we are in the scale mode, we can just shrink it down like so and get this type of a setup. So basically, again, when in scale mode, we're going to hit Shift Z, and that's going to lock a Z axis, only giving us the scalability in Y and X. It's a real nice functionality when we want to kind of shrink it quickly, certain objects. And I'm going to go ahead and just move this to the top like so. Give it a certain width and whatnot. Width in regards to the setup, I think that's quite all right. Something like that. Again, I'm not too worried about the overall positioning too much. I'm just trying to get the overall shape. So I think something like that is going to be quite all right. The other thing that we need to consider is going to be, if we look at it, the angle of the water tower. This is not as important in this particular case, but if we do want to do that, we could potentially rotate it, let's say, like this. Maybe that would be quite all right. But again, I think we can keep it for later setup and move on to the other parts of the Greybox. So in regards to, let's say, the part in the back, I really like to get this piece out of the way first because it's a nice small structure at the back. It's for a toilet, let's say, and you can go up the stairs. There's a nice vertical type of structure over here, which we're going to set it up. So if you notice that it doesn't reach the upper limit of the building, it just helps us to break down the overall shape. So that's what we're going to make use out of, basically. I'm going to duplicate this object over here. I'm going to click Alt and S, move it off to the side, and I think I actually moved it a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Just going to fix it. I moved it up, downwards, that is, so just fix the verticality. And yeah, throughout the entire setup, you'll see me going through numpad, just switching between the viewports and whatnot. And this really helps to kind of visualize how it looks like from multiple angles. So I recommend you getting used to that. And yeah, going back to this structure, it's a little bit too, I think, too wide. I'm going to go into scale mode, clicking S, Shift Z, scaling this downwards a little bit. Let's see how this looks like once we put it closer. Is that going to be the right size? I think at this point we should grab ourselves the human reference. So this, with its hands stretched, seems to be, I'd say, a human length, a little bit wider than that. Let's see if it works out with our human reference over here. So this is almost, yeah, this is a little bit still too wide. I'm going to go back onto scale. So Shift Z, going to scale it downwards, just like that. All right, so I think, yeah, this will work much better. Okay. Then afterwards, because we have the origin at the bottom, we can click S, Z, and whoa, I'm going to click escape. I'm going to change my position of a camera because I had it too close to the origin point. It was going way too crazy. As you notice, whenever we're scaling, the reference of the scaling goes from the origin point. So whenever we're getting closer, it's going to get closer to a 0. Whenever we're getting further, it's going to be scaling it outwards, basically. And if we have the mouse too close to that origin point, it's going to give us an insane amount of sensitivity. We don't want that. Make sure you have the mouse a little bit further from that origin point. So something like that will do the trick. I think that's quite all right. And yeah, let's continue on with the blocking real quick. The reason being is that we still have a long way to go. And we're going to continue on afterwards with the roofing. I'll explain you when we start using a bit of an extra setup other than primitive shapes. But all of that is going to be further down the lessons. So we are running out of time with this one. So I'll be seeing you in the next one.